Hey everybody, in this video we're going to be talking about the GH5s. We've been seeing loads of rumors about this. Been seeing Neistat potentially being one of the first users of the GH5s. And there's a lot that's going into this that I think needs a bit of unpacking. So what it's supposed to be, Panasonic's trying to pull a Sony, right? Where they have an A7R, A7S, A9 type of thing. So we're seeing that with the G9 and the GH5 right now. What it's hard for me to tell is what the GH5 is supposed to be if there's a GH5s, because GH5 does mostly video and does everything with video. So it seems like a professional video solution. So what do you need an S model for, right? The GH series of cameras has always been an incredibly capable video series of cameras. G9 now is trying to take the place for a lot of users of an A9 type of camera. I don't know if it will, because of frame size, because of attachment to frame size across the industry, especially with professionals, but we'll see down the line, I guess. But the point is, what is the GH5s for? And it seems to be sensitivity. People are saying, oh, you know, it's going to be a low light monster. Oh, you know, it's going to be fantastic for video. And it's like, well, isn't the GH5 already fantastic for video? And it is. So in order to get to that S moniker, they're probably going to have, and low light performance, they're probably going to have to drop the resolution. So on Sony's full frame A7S, they went down to a 12.2 megapixel sensor, right? So if we're going to compare within Sony's line, if you look at the pixel size of the A7R 2 and 3 versus the A7S and A7S 2, you're seeing a 3 to 4 times larger, let's call it 3.5 times larger pixel size on the A7S, right? What we're going to be doing when we're seeing Panasonic come out with the GH5s is not that kind of a difference. What we're going to be seeing out of the GH5s is a pixel size that is very nearly on par with the pixel size of the A7R, A7R2, A7R2, A7R3. And that's because of the smaller format size, right? So you can't have pixel density and pixel size both be what you want them to be when you're limited by a format, right? So what that means is that the GH5 and the G9 both are running a 20 megapixel sensor. In order to hit that A7R2, A7R3 pixel size, which is still very, very small, you're gonna have to, smaller in fact than the pixels on a crop sensor 24 megapixel sensor, you're gonna have to have the resolution of your GH5s. So bringing that down to 10 or so megapixels, 10.3, somewhere in that range, you're gonna end up with a low light beast. And you know, that's the thing, is because of the other sensor architecture that Sony's built in to their R line of cameras, like backside illumination and so forth, they can have really, really low read noise. The circuitry is to the point where there's very little noise put in through reading what the sensor's telling it, what the sensor's trying to communicate, right? So without backside illumination, I don't think that this low light GH5s can get to the SNR, the signal to noise ratio, of a camera like an A7R2 or 3, which is problematic, right? Because if this is supposed to be a low light beast, then it's got to have big enough pixels to soak in all that light. It will probably be a big difference over a GH5 or a G9, right? Because it's got half as many pixels. But then when you say it's going to be a video monster, it's going to be the king of handheld video, I just can't believe that, right? Because that's what the GH5 already is. So when when you're going to say we make a 6K camera, we make a camera that can shoot anamorphic, we make a camera that can shoot 4K 60, and we're pushing the boundaries with this camera, the GH5, and then we're going to port a lot of that functionality into the G9 so that these cameras, in terms of video capacity, are on par for most users, right? Most users are not shooting 6K anamorphic. Most users at most will want 4K 60, and you can get that, albeit in a 10-minute segment as opposed to 30-minute or unlimited for the GH5. In the G9, how do you make a camera that's better at video with fewer pixels for better resolution, right? So when you look at the A7S II, for example, that shoots 4K internally, full sensor, right? But that is a very poor 4K by comparison to the 4K on an A7R2 or 3 that's super sampled that 6K area down to 4K. Same with Sony's crop sensor bodies, the 6300 and 6500. The 4K out of the 6300 and 6500 is much better than the 4K out of the A7S II because it's super sampled, because there are pixels, there are a plurality of pixels, and they're not pixel binning or line skipping to get that 4K. On an A7S II, you're not pixel binning or line skipping to get that 4K, but it's not super sampled, and so it's not going to be as good of a 4K. The Panasonic's EVA1 kind of sidesteps some of that issue by going to 5.7K to super sample down, right? But if you only have 10 megapixels, you need 24 for that 6K to oversample to bring it back down. 20, 24, something like that. So if you only have 10, you can't, and 4K is 8.8, you don't even have enough resolution to make a noticeable difference in that super sampling process. So you can't make a camera that has better video than your GH5 from a sharpness and everything perspective. You can't have a better resolving video. You might be able to have 4K 90 or 4K 120 because you're reading out so many fewer pixels, but what does better video mean, right? That's what I keep coming back to in my own head is if this has half as many pixels, it's supposed to be better in low light, it's gonna inherit the fantastic dual IS system. What reasonably sets it apart from the GH5 and G9? And it's gonna be this low light capacity. So if that means that now you can shoot it up to ISO 6400 and it's usable, that could be great, right? That could be really nice. But the issues with contrast detect autofocus systems start to come in those low light scenarios. So you're going to have to deal with AF issues in low light that contrast detect and depth from defocus can't really solve for. So it seems like a tool that's meant for very niche users, right? There have been a couple of reviews out on Google's Chromebooks, right, where it's like they're fantastic devices, but they're really only good for very, very select users. It's very hard to recommend those devices. It feels like the GH5s is going to be one of the same type of thing, right? Fewer pixels, better low light performance. Okay, cool. Better low light performance, but with an autofocus system that can't handle low light no matter what. So they're going to have to make a ton of changes, right? They're going to have to make a sensor that can capture more light, ostensibly not that hard. They're going to have to increase dynamic range capacity of that sensor, which has been a huge holdback with the Micro Four Thirds format from it being pushed forward. That's going to consume a large amount of engineering resources, so it's potential that they just won't even do it and they're going to stick to a low dynamic range sensor by comparison to a lot of modern ones. And then it's not going to be able to do as good of 4K, it's not going to be able to do as good of anything because it's not got the resolution to super sample. So it's a very confusing device, this GH5s. I don't think that it's going to really be all that it's cracked up to be. A lot of people are getting on this boat. A lot of people are getting on this bandwagon, and maybe that works for a ton of people. I just don't think that the sensor size makes sense presently. I don't think that it's a capable enough sensor yet. They haven't done enough engineering wise to turn this sensor size into a really powerful tool. And then if they're going to be charging $2,500 for it, which is the current rumors around it, that doesn't make any sense either. That's putting it on the map with Sony, with full frame, with the A7S, A7S II, whatever the A7S III looks like. I don't think that it's worth it. I can't imagine. It feels like Panasonic is just overflowing with hubris. It's Panasonic's just coming out and saying, we're wonderful and we're just going to price everything wherever the hell we want to, and it's going to work out for us. And it's like, your cameras aren't smaller than anybody's cameras anymore. GH5, G9, these are the size of pro bodies for APS-C DSLRs. They're larger than full-frame mirrorless options. So there's no size benefits. The lenses, you could argue, there are size benefits with, but as soon as you get into like realistic comparisons, the 1.2 Pro lenses that we're seeing from both Olympus and Panasonic are huge. The big telephotos are big. So, I mean, they're heavy too. Like, you're not actually gaining that much with the size factor anymore. And then if you're also going to be reverting back to, original A7S levels of recording capability, just about, it doesn't seem like that warrants that price tag. It doesn't seem like the value proposition is there. So what they're going to have to do is say, well, we're going to give you 4K 120 or 4K 90 or something just to sweeten the deal so that it's worthwhile. But that doesn't sit well with me either, because it's like, we're just going to throw features at you and expect that features are worth more money instead of adequate sensor development, instead of being as intentional as we could be with the design of this camera, right? Because if they made a camera that was point and shoot size, that had a flip up screen or a flip down screen and a place where you could put in a mic with a mic jack and everything, that would make a lot more sense. A flip out, whatever, I don't care. That would make a lot more sense as this GH5s, and then price it at $1,000. You'd sell a bajillion units, right? And I don't understand Panasonic's current marketing and product development, because it doesn't make sense. These are not capable devices. They're not. The sensor size, the sensor capacity is not the same as APS-C and full frame. It's just not. It should be, it's not. So the lenses are getting bigger and heavier, and in order to get that light performance, you have to get those really huge lenses. An f2.8 zoom on one of these Micro Four Thirds devices is like an f6.3 zoom for everybody else for a full frame, right? So you're not gaining anything by going Micro Four Thirds anymore. The only thing you're gaining is like these features being thrown at you that aren't really what's going to make the difference, right? If all you're about is the newest and coolest and, oh my gosh, I have 4K 90, look at how cool I am, buy a Red. Like, what's the point of... Because Reds can do that. A lot of the big cinema cameras can do stuff like that. So then, I don't get it. I don't get it. Thank you very much for your time and for your attention. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one.